Angels are, in my opinion, the coolest beings known to man. I've always had a fascination with angels and angelic beings, so when I learned about angelic swords, I knew I had to try and make one. And in this video, I will. When I was visiting Oxford, England, I saw a stained glass depiction of St. Michael defeating Satan. As I stood in awe of the masterful work of the artist, I couldn't help but notice all the angels had the same type of sword, a one-handed, double-edged, red flamberge blade. In fact, several depictions of angels that I saw online show a flaming sword of sorts, either literally or just flamberge. There are various types of lengths, from long to short, and different guards, usually golden, with some interpretations depicting a large cross guard and others just a simple disc. So I decided to combine several of these variables into one, and since it would be a shame to make a sword and not get to use it, I will be making it in the style of a L.A.R.P boffer. Now, disclaimer before we continue. Yes, I am well aware that these images are not biblically accurate depictions of angels. They probably look like this, or even this, but probably not this. For the purposes of this video, I'm going to go with the stained glass interpretation and call it good enough. So take it with a grain of salt. Flamberge is a term that refers to blades with a certain wavy design. It stems from the French word flamber, which roughly translates to flame, burn, or blaze. This type of blade can be found on a variety of weapons, but most commonly greatswords and rapiers, although theoretically it could apply to anything with a sharp edge. The first thing I had to do was draw up a design, so I got out my pencil, straight edge, and eraser and started throwing out possible concepts. I had a handful of ideas, but these were the ones I found to be the most feasible. I could either put staggered foam blocks directly on the core, bend the PVC with some kind of heat, put foam blocks in between strips of foam, put blocks purely on the outside, cut away portions of the foam, or make it more of a floating blade design. These are the 6 finalized designs I came up with. But I decided to go with this one because it gave me all of the desired effects with the least amount of risk. First, I had to pick out a piece of PVC for the core. I ended up going with this piece. When I hold it right about here, with one hand, it gives me quite a bit of reach. But the handle is also long enough for me to wield it with both hands. Time to add the foam. I gathered all my supplies, rolled out the foam, got some approximate measurements, and cut a 2-inch wide strip. I then did this a few more times. There are 2 smaller strips that build up the flat, and 3 long strips of progressively thinner width to create the striking edge. The progressive decrease in width adds a bevel effect to the blade and allows for more gentle padding. Now, it's time to glue it all together. I always start with an even layer on the core, and then lather and glue on the blue foam strips. Wait about 5 minutes for the glue to be tacky. You want it as tacky as a suit from Goodwill, but not quite as tacky as my sense of humor. Now, carefully, ever so carefully, wrap the strip around the core and secure it with duct tape to keep it in place. I added one more layer and some staggered blocks of foam like we discussed earlier. I then wrapped the 3rd and final layer, securing it with duct tape periodically. I'm actually quite pleased with how well the flamberge turned out. I then added some open cell foam to the tip for extra stabbing safety. Oh, and a simple pommel and guard. Now it's time to add the cloth cover. Obviously I chose red. I wrapped the fabric around the blade and secured it with pins. And now it's time to sew. It was going pretty well, but then my phone decided it was time to run out of memory. But I took pictures. I wrapped the handle in the closest thing they had at Ace Hardware to gold. Only problem is it looks disgusting. So then I tried accenting it with black duct tape, but it looked like a cross between Bumblebee and caution tape. So I decided to give up and just cover the entire thing in black duct tape. Oh, I also made a tunic out of the same fabric. Let me know in the comments if you want a tutorial. But enough talking. Time to see how it turned out. To put this weapon to the test, I drove to my nearest L.A.R.P group, a band of warriors practicing the style of Belegarth in the region of the Emerald Coast known as Alera. If you aren't already familiar, I highly recommend checking them out. Links are in the description. And now, the moment you've all been waiting for. Well, I don't know what you guys think, but I'm pretty pleased with how it turned out. Flamberge was great, the handling was great, stood up okay, I'll touch more on that later. I'd say it's a great all-rounding weapon. For one-handed combat, I found that it was decently agile in the hand. I could wield it with one hand, and I'm not exactly the most physically beefy person on the field, but I could still wield this around well enough. I did find that two hands I was a lot better. I was able to utilize kendo against both of my opponents to kind of do a quick block and counter strike, which I found worked really well with this. Having both edges, I was also able to do a couple tricky maneuvers using both sides. As far as grappling, this is not the weapon for grappling. The handle is so long that it can get caught really easily. You can't really grab someone and stab at the same time because it's so long. Like, you have to be at arm's length almost entirely. It actually got snagged out of my hands when I did try and grapple, so would not recommend. As far as cuts versus thrusts are concerned, I'd say it definitely favors the cut more than the thrust, although you can stab with it plenty, but the wide blade and heavy nature kind of adds to the cut, makes more effective cutting. I use PVC. There are some people that use fiberglass. That's totally cool. It's a lot lighter, a lot quicker of a weapon, but doesn't have quite as much punch, and I like something that's a little more sturdy, so I use PVC. The other tricky thing is gauntlets. I have pretty big gauntlets that I use for HEMA, and in Belegarth they don't actually allow hard armor, so my gauntlets and my helmet I wasn't actually allowed to use. But even with the gauntlets, I'm still able to use both hands on this, so maybe if I'm with a different group or just with friends, I might try these out for some extra hand protection. I think it fits my fighting style pretty well. It's easy to adapt to different situations, it's a good all-rounder, it can face a variety of opponents, and I was able to be pretty effective with this weapon. I mean, they were very good fighters on the field though, so massive respect if you guys are watching this, good stuff there. In honor of its angelic heritage of sorts, I'm going to name this blade Flamma Nuntiorum, which is Latin for Flame of the Messenger, since angels are, of course, the messengers of the Lord. Hope you enjoyed watching. If you did, let me know. I do this for you guys. I'm still a pretty small YouTuber, so I don't get paid for this. I spend a lot of personal time and money on this, so if you enjoyed, let me know. I don't like asking for specifics, so do whatever you want. Let me know in the comments if there's any other kind of weapons you want me to see. You can make an axe, I could make a spear, I could make a shield, whatever you want. Something from a video game, from popular media, from some fantasy genre. Let me know and I'll see what I can do. Thanks guys, I'll see you in the next episode. Bye bye.